It was Tuesday, March 17th, 2025, when 11-year-old Isabela Martins Costa vanished from her home in the Morumbi district on the south side of São Paulo. A typical autumn afternoon in the city, the sky was overcast, and a fine, persistent drizzle fell upon the sprawling metropolis. Isabela, a girl with warm brown hair and expressive eyes, was known by all as cheerful, outgoing, and exceptionally bright for her age. She was the only child of Ricardo Costa, a civil engineer, and Marina Martins, a university professor. Isabela was a sixth grader at a prestigious private school in the area. According to her parents, she was an exemplary student with a wide circle of friends and a keen interest in technology and online gaming. She was particularly fond of Block World, a popular construction and adventure game. That afternoon, around 4:30 p.m., Marina returned from work to find the house empty. She wasn't immediately alarmed, assuming her daughter might be at a friend's house within their condominium complex, as she sometimes was. The nanny, Donna Conceição, had left at 3:00 p.m., just after Isabela came home from school following their normal routine. According to the nanny's statement, she had left the girl in the kitchen having a snack, playing on her tablet with strict instructions not to open the door for strangers and to wait for her mother's arrival. By 5:45 p.m., after a series of frantic calls to her daughter's friends and the building's front desk yielded nothing, a cold knot of worry began to tighten in Marina's stomach. The building's security cameras showed no record of the girl leaving, which only deepened her growing anguish. Ricardo, who was at a construction site in the interior of the state, was contacted immediately and rushed home. At 7:23 p.m., the family filed a missing persons report with the police, officially beginning the search for Isabela. The girl's room was tidy, just as she always kept it. Her school uniform was in the laundry basket and her backpack sat on her desk. The only item missing from the apartment was the tablet she always used for her games. Police immediately issued an Amber Alert. Within hours, Isabela's photo and description were circulating across all social media platforms, television channels, and messaging apps. The case quickly galvanized the local community and, due to its mysterious circumstances, gained national attention. The first few days were a blur of intense searching. Firefighters, police officers, and volunteers scoured the entire condominium and the surrounding areas. K9 units were brought in, but they failed to find any definitive trail. The building where the family lived was 22 stories high, with 88 apartments, and every single one was searched to no avail. Analysis of the condominium's security footage revealed no suspicious activity that afternoon. Every person who entered or exited was identified and accounted for. No child matching Isabela's description was seen leaving the premises. This led investigators to two initial theories. Either Isabela was still somewhere inside the vast condominium, or she had been taken out in a way that bypassed every layer of security. While the physical search continued, Detective Carla Mendonça, a specialist in cybercrimes assigned to the case, asked the family for access to Isabela's email, social media, and online gaming accounts. And it was here that the investigation took a critical turn. In the days leading up to her disappearance, Isabela had been in contact with an unknown user in Block World, someone who went by the name Construteam18. With the discovery of the suspicious online contact, the investigation pivoted. Detective Mendonça immediately requested all communication records between Isabela, whose username was Bella Briggs, and Construteam18 from the game's US-based developer. The request was made through official channels of international cooperation. But bureaucracy and differing laws between Brazil and the United States meant the information was slow to arrive. In the meantime, investigators began a forensic analysis of the family's computers. Isabela's tablet was still missing, but her personal laptop provided several important clues. Her browser history revealed recent searches on how to meet friends in São Paulo, directions to shopping malls, and, more disturbingly, how to delete conversations and hide messaging apps from parents. It suggested Isabela may have been planning a secret meeting. On March 21st, 4 days after she vanished, a forensic analysis of automatic cloud backups revealed that Isabela had installed an alternative messaging app, one her parents knew nothing about, just 2 weeks before she disappeared. The app was set to self-destruct messages after they were read, further complicating the investigation. The fieldwork continued. A resident on the 18th floor reported seeing an unfamiliar man in the service elevator on the afternoon of the disappearance, wearing the uniform of a delivery company that frequently serviced the building. But after reviewing the elevator cameras, investigators confirmed he was a legitimate delivery driver who had made drops to 3 different apartments that day. On March 23rd, the Blockworld company finally sent the requested records. The conversations between Bella Briggs and Constru Team 18 started innocently enough, discussing game strategies and sharing virtual creations. Gradually, however, the tone shifted. The unknown user began asking personal questions: where Isabela went to school, what her daily routine was, details about her family. In a classic grooming pattern, Constru Team 18 presented himself as a 14-year-old boy named Felipe, who wanted to be her friend. In their final conversations dated March 15th, 2 days before she disappeared, he suggested they meet in person, claiming he would be in São Paulo for a gaming tournament. Isabela had hesitated at first, but after persistent pressure, she appeared to have agreed. A technical analysis of the data revealed something even more alarming. The IP address used by Constru Team 18 was located in Campinas, a city about 60 miles from São Paulo, and it didn't trace back to a residence, but to a public cybercafe, making it nearly impossible to identify the person behind the profile. On March 25th, a week after the disappearance, police made a crucial breakthrough. Security footage from a shopping mall, just 2 miles from the family's home, showed Isabela entering the building around 4 p.m. on the day she vanished. She was alone, wearing different clothes than when the nanny had last seen her and carrying a small backpack and her tablet. The footage showed her walking nervously through the mall, constantly looking at her tablet as if following instructions or waiting for a message. At 4:42 p.m., she entered the food court and sat at a table near a side exit. At 5:03 p.m., a man in his 30s, his face obscured by a baseball cap, dark sunglasses, and a jacket, sat down at her table. Their conversation lasted less than 5 minutes. Then they both stood up and left together through the side exit leading to the parking garage. It was the last time Isabela was seen on camera. The quality of the footage was too poor to clearly identify the man, but facial recognition experts were called in to analyze the material. Simultaneously, police began identifying every vehicle that left the mall's parking garage between 5 o'clock and 6 p.m. that day. The investigation intensified when they discovered that Isabela had used a ride-sharing app to get from her home to the mall. The account had been newly created with false information, but the trip was paid for with a prepaid card purchased at a newsstand near her school 3 days before she disappeared. The driver was located and questioned, but he reported nothing unusual, just a quiet girl on her phone for the entire ride. The family's anguish grew with each passing day. Ricardo and Marina made multiple public appeals, offered a reward for information, and hired private investigators. The case was now a national obsession, with the hashtag #WhereIsIsabela trending for weeks. By the 30th day, police had taken over 200 statements and analyzed countless hours of security footage, chasing down numerous false leads. The primary theory was online grooming followed by abduction, possibly linked to human trafficking or a pedophile ring. Yet no ransom demand had been made, which made the case even more terrifying. The chief of the Child and Adolescent Protection Division, Roberto Almeida, stated in a press conference, "We are dealing with an extremely complex case involving elements of cybercrime and a potentially organized criminal network. All state police forces are mobilized, and we are working with federal and international agencies, as we cannot rule out the possibility that Isabela has been taken out of the country." Then on April 15th, nearly a month after Isabela's disappearance, the case took a dramatic turn. A 38-second video was sent anonymously to a news portal. The footage, clearly shot in a dimly lit enclosed space, showed Isabela sitting in a chair, holding a newspaper dated the previous day. She appeared physically unharmed, though visibly terrified. In a trembling voice, the girl said, "My name is Isabela Martins Costa. I am fine. Don't look for me anymore. I am where I want to be." Forensic analysis of the video revealed several disturbing elements. First, her speech seemed rehearsed and forced, as if she were reading from a script or repeating lines under duress. Second, the tension in her face and the dark circles under her eyes suggested severe stress and sleep deprivation. Third, and perhaps most revealing, lip-reading experts detected that in the final seconds of the video, as the camera pulled away, Isabela subtly mouthed a single desperate phrase, "Help, station." The video, though quickly taken down by the news portal at the authorities' request, had already been shared thousands of times. Using advanced tracking techniques, federal police traced the upload to a public internet terminal at the main bus station in Campinas. Security cameras there were reviewed, but the upload had occurred at 3:27 in the morning, when the lighting was poor and the station was crowded, making it impossible to identify the person responsible. Forensic experts then focused on the video itself, amplifying and filtering the background audio. They isolated faint sounds that resembled passing trains or a subway. Combining this clue with Isabela's whispered plea, investigators began mapping all train stations, subway stops, and bus terminals within a 100-mile radius of São Paulo and Campinas. At the same time, the Cybercrime unit intensified its investigation into Constru Team 18. By cross-referencing data from telecom companies, internet access logs, and the game developer, they identified a connection pattern that pointed to a specific address in Jundiaí, a city situated between São Paulo and Campinas. On April 18th, a joint police operation was launched at the address, a seemingly abandoned house in a remote neighborhood. Isabela was not there, but investigators had stumbled upon a criminal operations hub. They found multiple computers, storage devices, video equipment, and a collection of fake IDs. A preliminary analysis revealed the location was used by a network specializing in the online grooming of minors. They found records of conversations with dozens of other children across Brazil, all following the same sinister pattern. The most chilling discovery was a detailed map of the São Paulo metropolitan area, with several railway stations marked in red. One stood out, Brás Station, a major hub connecting train, subway, and intercity bus lines. Next to the mark for Brás Station were notes with dates and times, including an entry for April 20th, just 2 days after the raid. Armed with the intelligence from the Jundiaí house, police planned a massive operation for April 20th centered on the Brás Station and its sprawling surroundings. More than 200 officers, many of them undercover, were strategically positioned, blending into the morning crowds, waiting. Teams from BOPE, the Special Police Operations Battalion, and GOE, the Special Operations Group, were on high alert, poised to intervene at a moment's notice. At 10:13 on that Sunday morning, the station's surveillance cameras captured the image they had been waiting for: A man, roughly 35 years old, carrying a large backpack, his grip tight on the hand of a small child who matched Isabela's description. The girl wore a cap and dark sunglasses in a clear attempt at a disguise, but her small frame was rigid with tension and fear. The pair made their way to Platform 7, where they waited for the train bound for Mogi das Cruzes, a city in the greater São Paulo area. Just as they were about to board, they were subtly intercepted by plainclothes officers. The man, sensing the agents closing in, tried to bolt, dragging the child with him. In that split second, Isabela saw her chance. She screamed for help, fighting to break free from his grasp. The tense standoff exploded into a rescue operation. The man, later identified as 37-year-old Rodrigo Alves da Silva, was swiftly immobilized and detained. No shots were fired, no one was injured. Isabela was immediately swept away to a secure location within the station, where she received initial psychological support while awaiting her parents, who had been notified the moment she was safe. The reunion, less than an hour later at federal police headquarters, was a moment of raw, overwhelming emotion, captured by the nation's media. Visibly shaken but without serious physical injuries, Isabela clung to her parents, Ricardo and Marina, for long minutes in a scene that moved the entire country. The man in custody, Rodrigo Alves da Silva, was no stranger to law enforcement. He had a criminal history of online fraud and was already under investigation for suspected involvement in an international human trafficking network. He had been released from prison where he had served time for embezzlement just 8 months before Isabela's abduction. An analysis of his cell phone and documents found in his rented apartment in East São Paulo revealed connections to at least 3 other cases of missing minors in the states of Minas Gerais and Rio de Janeiro over the past 2 years. During his interrogation, Rodrigo initially denied everything, claiming the girl was with him voluntarily, a mutual acquaintance. But when confronted with the digital evidence, including the chats from the Block World game and the materials recovered from the house in Jundiaí, he offered a partial confession. He admitted to being part of a criminal organization specializing in the abduction of minors for various illicit purposes, including extortion, human trafficking, and the production of child abuse material. Isabela, he revealed, had been meticulously selected as a target. She fit what the criminals deemed the ideal profile: an upper-middle-class family, an only child, professionally busy parents, and an active online presence with limited supervision. The initial plan, according to Rodrigo, was to take Isabela to a remote farm where other members of the ring would hold her captive while they forged the documents needed to smuggle her out of the country. The video sent to the news portal was a calculated misdirection, designed to make it look as though she had run away. The police operation did not end with Rodrigo's arrest. Based on his statements and the evidence gathered, the federal police, in coordination with Interpol, launched Operation Virtual Rescue. They executed search and seizure warrants at 17 locations across 5 Brazilian states and sent requests for international cooperation to Argentina, Paraguay, and Portugal. In the following days, 7 more people were arrested. The group included a tech company employee who provided privileged user data, a former police officer who facilitated the creation of false documents, and a woman who posed as a social worker to vet potential victims. The operation successfully dismantled one of the largest human trafficking networks operating in South America, a network responsible for the disappearance of at least 23 children and adolescents over the last 3 years. For Isabela and her family, the nightmare was over, but the long road to recovery had just begun. The girl was placed in the care of psychologists specializing in childhood trauma, and the entire family received support from the Victim and Witness Protection Program. On the advice of authorities and her counselors, The details of what Isabela endured during her 34 days of captivity were not made public to protect her privacy and aid her healing process. 6 months after the rescue, Ricardo and Marina established the Isabela Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to preventing the online grooming of children and adolescents. The foundation develops educational programs for schools, parents, and educators, and offers psychological and legal support to families of cybercrime victims. In an exclusive interview 1 year after the event, Isabela, now 12 and showing a resilience that belied her years, said, "I want my story to help other kids protect themselves. The internet can be a cool place, but it's also dangerous. I learned the hard way that not everyone is who they say they are." Isabela's case triggered significant changes in Brazilian law regarding the protection of minors online. The Isabela Law, passed by the National Congress in March of 2026, established new guidelines for tech companies, online games, and social media platforms. It mandated stricter age verification, the monitoring of suspicious interactions, and more efficient reporting channels. For law enforcement, the case represented a major leap forward in the techniques for investigating cybercrimes involving minors. The knowledge gained was shared with police forces in several countries through international cooperation programs, helping to prevent and solve similar cases around the world. Isabela's story, though born of pain, became both a symbol of hope and a stark warning to families across Brazil. Her rescue, the result of meticulous investigative work and collaboration between different security agencies, proved that even in the most complex and seemingly hopeless cases, the persistent search for truth can mean the difference between a permanent tragedy and the chance for a new beginning. If you have watched this far, it is because you care about these stories that mark families forever. Let me know you're here by leaving a comment so I can know who truly cares about the search for truth. Don't forget to like this video and share it with people who need to hear this story, because information is our most powerful tool for prevention. Subscribe to the channel to follow more cases that reveal hidden truths and help us build a safer society for our children. 2 years after Isabela's rescue, the aftershocks of her case continued to reverberate throughout Brazil and the world. The trial of Rodrigo Alves da Silva and the other members of the criminal organization became one of the most watched in Brazilian legal history, with live-streamed sessions and daily media coverage. Rodrigo was sentenced to 24 years in prison for aggravated kidnapping, corruption of a minor, participation in a criminal organization, and various cybercrimes. The other members of the group received sentences ranging from 8 to 20 years. The landmark sentence delivered by Judge Eliana Calmon set a powerful precedent for similar cases, underscoring the severity of crimes that merge technology with violence against the vulnerable. In parallel with the criminal proceedings, a civil lawsuit filed by the Federal Public Prosecutor's Office against the developer of the game Block World resulted in a multi-million-dollar settlement. The company agreed to implement a more rigorous system for monitoring user interactions, limit direct communication between profiles with a large declared age gap, and invest 50 million reais in digital safety education programs in Brazil. Legislatively, beyond the Isabela Law, the case spurred the creation of a new specialized federal police unit, the Virtual Delegation for the Protection of Children and Youth. Staffed by police officers, psychologists, social workers, and technology specialists. It became an international benchmark in preventing and combating online grooming. The social impact was equally profound. Schools across the country overhauled their digital education curricula, incorporating specific modules on online safety from the earliest elementary grades. Parent-teacher associations organized discussion groups and shared vigilance networks, creating community-level safety nets for children. The Isabela Foundation, created by her parents, expanded its operations beyond national borders, establishing partnerships with similar organizations in Argentina, Chile, Mexico, and Portugal. Its safe navigation program was adopted by over 5,000 schools in Brazil, reaching approximately 2 million students. Isabela herself, upon turning 14, began to participate in carefully adapted talks for adolescents, always with psychological support. In 2027, a documentary titled 34 Days, The Isabela Case won Best Documentary at the UN Human Rights Film Festival, bringing international visibility to the issue of online grooming. The film, produced with the family's approval, focused on the investigation and the social consequences rather than the details of her captivity, respecting her privacy. The family's conscious choice to transform personal tragedy into a social cause was a driving force. Isabela's mother, Marina, left her university position to dedicate herself full-time to the foundation, becoming a leading voice in the defense of child safety online. In her 2028 book, Beyond the Kidnapping: Rebuilding Lives in the Digital Age, she addressed not only the family's trauma, but also the paths they found toward healing and turning pain into positive action. Ricardo, meanwhile, used his engineering expertise to co-develop a parental monitoring app. It allowed parents to track their children's online activities non-invasively, respecting their privacy while alerting them to potentially dangerous interactions. The app, Safe Kids, was released for free and surpassed 15 million downloads in its first 2 years. For Isabela, the recovery was long and challenging. Alongside ongoing therapy, she found in art a powerful outlet to process her emotions. Her paintings, initially just a part of her therapy, were later featured in a traveling exhibition called Rebirth, which toured several Brazilian cities, raising public awareness about childhood trauma and recovery. Internationally, the Isabela Protocol was developed by Interpol in collaboration with Brazilian experts, establishing guidelines for investigating disappearances linked to cybercrimes. The protocol, adopted by 47 countries by 2029, significantly reduced the average response time in such cases, increasing the chances of successful rescues. Statistics also reflected the positive impact of the changes. According to the Brazilian Forum on Public Safety, reported cases of missing minors linked to online grooming dropped by 37% between 2025 and 2029. At the same time, reports of attempted grooming increased by 186%, indicating greater awareness and vigilance from parents, educators, and children themselves. Isabela's story, which began as a private tragedy, had become a catalyst for systemic change in the protection of children and adolescents in the digital age. The case exposed critical vulnerabilities in online security, legislation, and parenting practices, but it also demonstrated the power of human resilience and collective action. In an interview upon turning 16, a poised and articulate Isabela reflected, "What happened to me does not define me, but it is a part of my story. Every time a child learns to protect themselves online, every time a parent pays closer attention to their kids' digital lives, every time a criminal is stopped from claiming a new victim, I feel that my suffering was not in vain. We transformed pain into purpose, and that is more powerful than any trauma." Isabela's message continues to inspire families, educators, and authorities worldwide, a reminder that in the delicate balance between the benefits of technology and its potential dangers, education, vigilance, and open dialogue are the most effective tools we have to protect the ones we love most.